Alrighty, so I'd like to thank you for joining me once again. And for the first part, can you please explain a little bit about yourself for those who don't know who you are?
Yeah, I'm Gabriella. I'm 20 years old. I'm a magician, performing artist from Vancouver, Canada, and that's kind of what I've been doing for most of my life. So I'm a magician, escape artist, and there's a little bit of motorsports in there somewhere too.
That's awesome. And so, what made you want to become a magician?
I fell in love with it as a young kid, I think as most kids do at some point, and it just seemed to stick around in my life. I kept having interactions with people that brought me closer to it, teachers, friends, waiters, street performers that kind of just kept nudging and nudging me closer, and I just wasn't able to let it go.
That's great. And so, I understand you were on Penn and Teller. Can you
Yes.
please talk a little bit about your experience on Penn and Teller?
Yeah, it was an intense experience for me. It was like my first performance post COVID, and it was a bit of a hard time in my life. Everyone on the team and the crew was amazing. Overall, filming it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. But it was a great mark in history for me. It was a goal I made for myself as a little kid that I never thought I'd be able to accomplish or would take much longer to accomplish. So I was happy to scratch that off when I did.
That's great. And so, if I understand correctly, you were the first person to do the upside down escape in the straight jacket, right?
Not the first. The first
Oh,
would
no.
be a long time ago, but
Okay.
I was one of the younger people that
Younger.
had done it. I
Okay.
did it when I was about 14.
That's awesome. And so, Uh, on stage, obviously to escapes, has there been any mishaps on stage that during your performances of escapes?
Nothing dangerous or crazy. They're tiny little bumps that can kind of go unnoticeable or moments like that, but nothing super bad has happened. I've had pieces of clothing snap or break or little things like that malfunction, but for the most part, nothing too crazy.
That's great. And so, do you have a favorite escape or just trick in general that you love to perform for people?
Um, yeah, I mean the straight jacket one has a special place in my heart, and just because it's scalable and I can do it in so many ways, I like that. But I don't think I do my favorite piece just yet. It's probably going to be something I'll work on soon.
That's great. And so, uh, as a magician, and you're so young, being a magician starting out, do you have any people who inspire you a lot as a magician? Like any other magicians that have inspired you on your journey?
Yeah, I mean, my closest friend and mentor would be a Canadian magician named Sean Farquhar. He's from Vancouver, adjacent as well. And I met him when I was about 10, and that was like that final nudge push to get me to pursue it full time. And he's kind of stuck around for a lot of that. So I think I look up to him the most in that regard.
That's awesome. And so, uh, you've performed a lot in the US, the Magic Lounge, Magic Castle. Is there a favorite performance space that you've performed in?
Yeah, I mean, I love the castle, and I think for magicians it holds such a special place in our heart. And because I was able to do it so young, it has a different kind of significance. I mean, that was the venue I didn't think I'd even be able to go into until I was 21. So be able to perform and do weeks there long before that happened, I think was really significant and special for me.
That's great. Yeah. So, uh, is there a trick that's like, so like you're still trying to figure out how to do it on stage because like you know how to do it, but you're trying to figure out how to do it. Is there any tricks like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's that's the thing about a magician. I think a lot of us just have hundreds and hundreds of things on the drawing board that we want to create at some point. I have so many ideas I'd love to bring to life, not just on stage, but in the world. And those are kind of all still in the sketches phase of it looks like really good as a dream, but the methods will come later.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, uh, as a magician, it's a hard business to be in because you're not always making enough because there's not a lot, like you're not always doing performances. So, what's the hardest part for you personally as a magician that's doing shows on the US and Canada?
Yeah, I think it would be the harder part is more so as a person than necessarily just a magician. I'm a big dreamer and optimist, and I've always been like that. And because I've been chasing this for so long, those dreams keep getting bigger. So for me, it's just allowing myself to slow down and take in everywhere I'm at, and still acknowledge that I'm young and I have time to get everywhere I'm going, and be okay with not having it all by 20 or 15 or 21.
That's great. And so, how old were you when you did your first show? And how did that change your direction of magic?
Yeah, first stage show, I think I was about 12 and it was for my school. And I was nervous beyond belief. It's a horrible, horrible video if you were to look at it, but it was a good marker for it. It was a good thing. And everything kind of went up from there, where we never go back there. So I think it was great to have that experience and feeling for me. And I think I knew right away that it was what I wanted to do, even if I wasn't good at it yet.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, obviously you're still young, but normally I'll ask what advice would you give to your younger self? So 12 or 11, if you could go back.
you know, I would tell her to just keep doing what she's doing and that things will be okay because I really love and am grateful for where I'm at, despite how much further I want to go. I love that I pursued everything I did in the way that I did. I love that I didn't give in to distractions or background noise and I just stuck to my plan of what I wanted to do. And I'm proud of that. So I would have just told her to keep doing what she's doing and that it would be okay.
That's awesome. And so, at in your career, has there been any points where you felt like giving up, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those natural humps, I think, because I started liking it at such a young age that I liked so many other things. So there are definitely moments where I wasn't certain that it was the one. But anytime I really spent time in it, it felt like coming home anytime I was performing, anytime I was talking about it. So those kind of helped. And then there were the dips like COVID and moments like that where you couldn't have that constant reminder of why you loved what you loved so much. It was harder to hold on to it. But it always came back. It always came back around. And I don't have any doubts that it's what I meant to do.
That's awesome. And so, uh, you've been on TV a couple times, correct? Or is Penn and Teller only?
In regards to that, Penn and Teller would be the only magic related one, I believe.
Got it. Okay. What advice would you give to the kids or other students who would like to pursue a career as a magician?
Just keep chasing and surround yourself with it as much as possible. Ask questions, find mentors. It's a really a hand-to-hand kind of art, I think. You can learn from books and videos as much as you want, but being able to experience that passion and share it with other people is such a huge part of it. And the magic community is such a wonderful world to be involved in. So I'd say ask questions, keep chasing. And the great thing about magic is you're figuring out ways to do impossible things. So never stop being creative.
That's awesome. And so, that actually wraps up the interview.